Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do statistical analysis, the Grubbs test on Excel. So I had a set of student data for water masses for 10 mils. It's sort of a hypothetical data set. And the first thing we'll want to do is calculate the average. So I'll type in the box over here, I'll type in average, just so I know what I'm putting in there. Then I'm going to hit equals, and I'm going to start typing average. And you'll notice that it will come up with the word average. And so I'm going to hit tab, and then I'm going to just drag all this data like this. And that's my average for my data set. And now I want to do the standard deviation. I'm going to hit equals and STD EV, right? You can see there's two of them. There's a P and an S. We want the S, and then I'll hit tab. And then I'll again drag and highlight the data that I want the standard deviation of. And I can hit enter. So there's my average and my standard deviation. The standard deviation is fairly small. Now what we want to do is we want to identify a potential outlier. And when you get a lot of data, sometimes it's very difficult to see the outliers. So there's a couple of options. If you don't want to lose track of which student, for example, gave which data point, then what you do is you highlight both columns, or you could just highlight the single column. So what I'm going to do is I'll highlight both, and then I'll show you how you can do this. We're going to sort the data. So we're going to go data, we're going to go to sort, and we're going to sort by data. And we're going to go smallest to largest. We'll hit OK. Remember, if you remember what the discussion was in class, and you'll notice how it sorted these numbers from lowest to highest, and it kept the student who generated that data along with it. The outlier is generally the highest or the lowest value. So now what we have to do, we have to say is equals, and we're going to calculate the deviation. And these things are in the way now, so I'm going to move them. Don't really need that. I was just sort of doing some other stuff. We're going to say equals, and then the value, and then minus the average, like this. And technically we should do the absolute value. So if you wanted to do that, because we're not caring about whether it's positive or negative, I'll show you how to do that as well. So I'm just going to go in onto that square again. I hit equals, and then I'm going to say ABS, and then I can put my equation in. So it's going to be this value minus the average. I'll close it and hit enter. That's the number I get. I'm going to do the same thing for this one. I'm going to say equals absolute value. Absolute value. This number minus this one, the average. So I'm checking the high and the low to see which one produces the biggest deviation. Then it's pretty easy to see. Now, if you notice how the number of digits that are shown are different, what you can do is go back to home, and you can see these little numbers here, right? You can change the number of places that are shown. So actually these were randomly generated numbers. So normally student data wouldn't have that many columns, and then I'm going to adjust a column so it looks about right again. So comparing these two, then this is clearly the outlier because it is a bigger deviation. And so now I can do the critical value, and then I'm going to show you another way to do this. Calculate the critical value for this one, which is just going to be the deviation divided by the standard deviation. Now I get a value of 1.917, blah, blah, blah. What I'm going to do next is look at the critical value. So this is this is not G-crit, this is G-experimental. I'm going to look up the critical value in our worksheet. So here's the critical values for Grubbs test, and in this particular example there are 25 students. So we have 2.663 is our critical value. was that? Okay, well that's on my recording. That's fine. It just sounds like someone dying.